Welcome, everyone, to episode 140 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantellaresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest is Ellen Datlow. Well, if you know Ellen, she is an amazing editor. She has edited quite a few books. The year's best fantasy and horror is what I know her from. But she's done some work for Omni Magazine. She's done work for quite a few publications. I love her. Loveness of Cats. She was definitely. She's also a very challenging interview for me. And it's not on her; it's on me. Every once in a while, you do an interview, it doesn't quite work the way you would hope it did, and this one felt like one of those. But don't get me wrong, Ellen is a very, very big voice in the industry, and her books, whether they're best ofs or whether they're her original projects, they are amazing, and you should definitely take a look at some of the things she's done. So how are you doing?
Good. Getting ready to go to Australia Monday.
You're going to Australia? Where are you going to Australia?
I guess I'm on at a convention in Canberra called Conflux.
Nice.
I'll be gone about 2 weeks or so.
Yeah. So I guess you're looking forward to that, I imagine.
I am, but I'm also freaking out. I'm also, I have a lot of work to get done before I go. So,
You doing panels?
Excuse me?
You doing panels? As well?
Lot.
Yeah.
Working me really hard, and I can't really say no considering they're paying my way.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Most conventions don't make me do that much, and this one, I think it'll be fine. I looked it over. There are things I've talked about before. I think it'll be fine.
Oh yeah, I just did my first panel thing at When Words Collide up here in Calgary. Mm-hmm. So I talked about podcasting. So what I did is I made the audience read Fox and Socks by Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
Yeah, got a smile at you on that one. No, I figured, like, for me, because I hadn't done a panel before, it'd be kind of like, okay, let's have some fun. Because I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to let that stop me. And I figure, if nothing else, I'll crack a smile from the audience with that. But it went really well. So, so I guess there's, like, I've never been a guest. Like, is it flattering at this point that you're still getting called for being guest of honor, or is it just something like? Is it flattering that you get that when you are asked to be a guest at this point, or is it?
Yeah, no, it's very flattering. I'm sure. No, it's great when people ask you to be a guest of honor.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an honor. It's fun usually.
Yeah.
I don't accept all of them. I mean, usually it depends on where it is and when it is. If it conflicts with something I'm doing. And if it's someplace I actually want to go.
Well, yeah, that's always a perk, right?
Places I've never felt otherwise, which is really kind of fun. I did one in Cedar Rapids, and I would never have been there otherwise in Iowa. So, and once I did a writing, it was more a conference in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm just curious to see what that would be like. So, sometimes I'll accept because I just want to see what the place is like.
So you're a big travel. You like to travel then. Yeah. So you like to travel a lot then, I take it.
Travel a lot.
Yeah. So I guess my question then, a fun one then, is what's your favorite places have you been to so far?
Well, I love Australia. I love Japan. I love New Zealand. I go to London I try to go every year, but I haven't been for a couple of years. So I have a lot of friends in London, and I love that. I was in China a few years ago, and I really found that fascinating, and I'd like to go back to different places in China. I'd say Japan and Australia.
Very cool.
As far as foreign countries.
As far as foreign countries. Yeah, so I guess really different mindset in China, like compared to everywhere else.
It's hard to say. No, I mean I hung out with young people who are editors of the science fiction magazines, and who work in publishing, and they seemed very. I had no problem. We had no problem relating to each other. They seemed a lot freer than I expected them to, at least in, perception. I mean, I know that we had to. When I was there, I had to get around to go to Facebook. A friend had to set me up at a VPN. So I know they have a lot of restrictions, but it didn't feel that way. We felt they didn't say you can't go here, you can't go there. So it was an interesting, the knowledge of what's going on there, but the experience of it was completely different.
No,
So that was interesting.
yeah, that
I
sounds
had
like
great food. I mean, wherever we went, we had really good food, and just had a very nice time, very interesting time. I
yeah.
went on a tour that me and my friends kind of, mostly writers. We set it up in advance, but very loose. This 8 of us, I think, traveled.
That's really
Wait, six of us traveled. With Michael Swanwick and his wife, Eileen Gunn and John Barry, and a friend of mine who I roomed with, who's not into the field at all. So the 6 of us traveled around. We organized a tour before we went, but it was very flexible, and that was nice. And then
nice.
we met people, professional people, and sometimes one case of a friend of a friend, we met them in China. Chinese people. So that was good. That we had things set up in Chengdu and in Beijing. We had places people to meet.
Sounds very cool. So because China's on my list of places I'd like to go. So
I just the opportunity, and that it's not. I mean, my way is not paid for that, and we paid our own way for that. But that was really cool.
yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. So I guess now I'm gonna ask this because I look at your credits and you have been editing for a long, long time. Did you start as a writer once upon a time, or did it was editing what you kind of fell in?
I've never written. I've always been working as an editor, or got into publishing. I started in publishing and book publishing in the mid '70s or
Okay,
early '70s,
that's
and I was
interesting.
never interested in writing.
That's interesting. I've interviewed other people that I've edited before, and they've usually on some level have started off as a writer. So it was just something. It was just publishing itself fascinated you, or was it just like you
Well,
stumbled into it?
yeah, outside of genre,
Yeah.
very few people who are an editorial write.
Yeah.
I mean, this is only a thing in genre where people were editors
Okay.
and writers. That doesn't happen. It's much seldom, much more rare. So I
Okay.
mean, it's a whole different story. And I worked in mainstream publishing. I was interested in book publishing because I was interested in reading, and I just didn't. I tried to figure out what are the options to do what I enjoy doing, and it was like working in a bookstore, working in libraries, and working in publishing. And so I decided, I wanted to go to publishing.
That's really cool. So yeah. So at this point,
And
like,
my first magazine job was with Omni. I mean, I started
wow.
working at book length in mainstream, but my first job in magazines was at Omni, and so I started working in short fiction. But I always was a reader of short fiction.
So who are your favorites back in the day when you started? Like who?
Well, I mean, I grew up reading Ray Bradbury and Harlan Ellison. I also loved Harlan's Dangerous Visions, and again Dangerous Visions. I mean, I read Nathaniel Hawthorne, Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, I always read a lot of short stories.
Yeah.
I read a lot of novels. I read Herman Hesse when I was in high school, and Chesterton, The Man Who Was Thursday. I read Magus. I mean, like John Fowles. I read his novels. So that's what I was reading, I guess, in my 20s. I mean, I didn't get into publishing. I didn't get into science fiction and fantasy until around 1979 when I started in Omni, or 80. Before that, I was in mainstream publishing, but I was still interested in odd fiction. I mean, I read Ted Whittemore. Whittemore was someone who published at Hope Reinhardt and Winston, where I worked for a few years. And I loved Ted Whittemore's work. Quentin Shanghai Circus and the Sinai Tapestry, the Jerusalem Quartet. He's not that very well known these days. I mean, he died a few years ago, but he was a really fine, weird writer. And I really loved his work. And Jonathan Carroll, I mean, once I discovered Land of Last was the first. I've been reading him since his first novel came out. So
Yeah.
those are the people who I was reading a lot
Oh,
of.
yeah. It's interesting because I've seen a few of your anthologies and I've read a few of your anthologies, so it's always kind of cool to see where it came from. Um, so you've been doing so like when did you get into the year's best fantasy and horror? Like, when did that start? Like, was that early, or was that like a little later on as you got more into?
I started doing that in 1987, I think. I was already working at Omni from 1980 or so, and I started doing a few anthologies. I think I started doing a few anthologies while I was at Omni. Blood is Not Enough and Alien Sex, and a couple of others. And then I was approached by Terry Windling, and I were approached by Jim Frankel, who was an editor first at Blue Jay Books. He published that, and then he was at St. Martin's. He approached us about doing a year's best fantasy and horror. So that's how it started. I think it was 1987 or 88, first year. I think 87, something like that. So he was the one who was a packager. I mean, Terry handled the fantasy, I handled the horror. We did not confer at all, although once in a while we overlapped in a story, so we both wrote it up, said we both think this is horror and we think it's fantasy. Which is Frankel.
That's interesting too. Again, I'm coming at this. I'm coming at this. I guess from the outside of ignorance. Like, just to me, it would just seem like when you're working on an anthology, it would be a lot more. It would be a lot more like at least a little bit more. It sounds like it wasn't. It wasn't you two didn't talk too much. You would think. Again, maybe I'm if I'm wrong. This is how this normally works. I apologize. That you guys would collaborate more on.
No, we each had our own wordage. We each had a 100 film, and I worked on the horror. I did not read fantasy, and she didn't read horror. But as I said, sometimes things overlapped.
Yeah.
And Jim put together a table of contents. He read everything. So we did not read each other's stories unless we were recommending them, saying we should read this because it's also horror. So that's the only time we read each other's stories. And Jim would put together the book.
Huh.
But then since I've been doing the best horror, of course I read all of it. But I don't publish fantasy.
Yeah. No, just.
It's conceived as two different things, and there was a continuum to me, dark fantasy to horror. But so to me the book was really well put together. But Terry and I had different interests, and same thing with Kelly and Gavin were doing the fantasy half, but I was doing the horror half. So that's how it was done.
No, I got you. That's just really interesting to me. Yeah. Like I said, I'm definitely more in the indie realm of things. It's just like it's a lot more collaborative when you in that area. So it's just an interesting difference.
An original anthology, it would be. This is all reprints. So it's different.
No, I got you. Just like that's interesting for me. But like I said, you've done an awful lot. What have been I know it's probably gonna be like choosing your children. What have been your most surprising, and maybe what have been your favorite anthologies that you have? We'll go with originals that you've actually put together.
Well, I have anthologies that are favorites. I mean, I've loved my non-theme anthologies, Inferno and Fearful Symmetries, and I also really enjoyed Supernatural Noir, which I would like to do another one like that. I enjoy doing that. And I liked, and Ghost Stories I've done before, and I enjoy that. Dark, and Hauntings, which is all reprints of ghost stories and haunted ideas and hauntings. So I have a few favorites. But it's everyone has favorites.
Oh no, I
And I love doing my Tales of Wonder and Imagination, which was all reprint cat stories. It didn't do well for various reasons, but I enjoyed putting that together. With a combination of fantasy and horror and dark fantasy, and a little bit, it might have been one or two science fiction stories.
No, it sounds like that one would be a lot of fun because I mean it's cats. Who doesn't like cats? And
but it's not, well, the problem is it's a horror anthology about cats. I mean, a lot of bad things happen to cats too, when cats do bad things. So some people who are cat lovers or animal lovers had a hard time with that, accepting, well, it's also horror, and, bad things happen to cats here too.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
it was not aimed at the cutesy cat lover.
No, it wouldn't be, and again.
And that's the problem when you have people who are, obsessed about, I love my cats, but I still can read a story about horror. I mean, a horror story about a cat.
Well, there's some really cool cat stories. One of my favorites is like by Neil Gaiman when he had this cat that was defending his family from the devil every night. That was a
Yeah,
really
yeah. I think that's in my book. I
yeah.
think I did that. Yeah, it's a
No,
good story.
no, it's really really good. I mean, but also I mean historically speaking, during time of the plague, I mean cats were brutalized. It was kind of like it was a very unfortunate thing. They associated cats with the cause of the plague, and there are places where cats were burned. I mean, there have been times in history where it has been brutal. So I mean, I could see a really good anthology with that. I'm sorry it didn't do as well as you would have liked. But that sounded like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was also had a bad cover. It had beautiful art. That was a terrible cover,
That always sucks.
and that counts. That matters. You have to have the. There's like a three. I forget. There's a 6 foot rule. You have to be able to see what a book's about from 6 feet away, and you couldn't. I mean, this one. As I said, the art was gorgeous, but it was very muddy, and its cover it just didn't work at all. So no one could tell. Couldn't see what the book was about even. Really. And so that was, it was partly marketing, was part, and the publisher admitted that they screwed it up for that. So.
It's definitely the way it goes sometimes. So I guess an interesting one I guess from your end, like you started editing before the internet and before like for me I've noticed that like in generally speaking a lot of books in terms of how they're read and how they're written have changed a lot as a result of just the internet and just how other medias have impacted this.
I
You
don't see that at all. I
no?
mean, it's just a new delivery system. I don't think they ever were. And I don't think short stories were either. The only difference is with the delivery system. I
Oh,
see no difference in how books are written. I mean, in the sense of technically written,
yeah.
people overwrite because they're using a computer. When they use a typewriter, they had to cut more and they were careful about what they wrote. That's the only difference, the technical aspect of writing. But as far as what books, the content of books, I don't think it's changed at all.
Interesting. Okay. Um. Wow. Okay. On that note.
I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't. I mean, of course, there are books that incorporate the outside world into your books, but the sense that the internet made books different, I think is a It's just not correct.
Oh well. I mean, books are books. I just I guess just me. I've just noticed that things like television and the internet have kind of. I mean, again, it's not like a terrible thing. It's just like for me, I just look at like sometimes I think the styles on how certain things are conveyed and a sense of time have changed a lot in books. But that's just maybe my own point of view on it. But all right, that's cool.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Well, because
We're distracted by other media, if that's what you mean. I'm
no,
not sure.
no. What I mean is like back when it's easier with older examples like Les Miserables like to today. Like there's a lot more emphasis on description and how things were presented in storytelling back then. Now I notice that when you get into books a lot more, there's a lot more emphasis on kind of going right to the point. Of whatever.
It's not true. You're reading the wrong books.
Okay,
I mean, it's just.
fair enough. Fair
All
enough.
books have been like that. I mean, it's just, different books are written differently in
Yeah.
different ways. Some are very tightly written in their adventures and their thrillers, and they may be close to the bone. And there are others that are very descriptive. I mean, it totally depends on the book.
I
It has
gotcha.
nothing to do with the internet. It
Okay.
depends on the writer and what they're trying to convey.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Let's see what else can we go into here. So you never written. So what are you working on right now? Besides obviously.
Well, I have a couple of things coming out. I have a horror anthology on the sea that's coming out in February from Nightshade, and it's all original. It's called The Devil in the Deep. And I have right now I have Haunted Nights just came out, and it's coming out like in a couple of weeks. Co-edited by me and Lisa Morton for the HWA, and that's coming out from Blumhouse Anchor Press at a trade paperback. That we just got our author's copies. But that's officially being published like October. So it's Halloween stories, and that's all original. And I have this year I had a car anthology on birds called Black Feathers that came out from Pegasus in February. And next in December, early December, I've got an Alice themed anthology called Mad Hatters and March Hares, which is all original stories inspired by Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. And I'm currently working on my best of the year, of course, as always, number 10. And I'm also going to be doing a best of the best, probably with the same publisher, which will be like the best of the last 10 years from my, now we've done 10 years of best of the year.
Yeah.
1 through 10, and we're going to do a best of the best. So, and I'm finishing up an all original ghost story anthology, Saga Press.
Nice.
So that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm doing. And also I'm doing, I'm also soliciting still. I buy stories for Tor.com, short stories. And we have an issue coming out October 24th. It's a revived print. We'll see how, it may be quarterly, it may not. We'll see. But the first issue is coming out October 24th, and I've got there are 3 new science fiction stories in there.
Cool. So what's harder, reprints or originals for you?
Reprints are really easy because you don't have to edit them.
Yeah.
It's just if I have a theme anthology that's reprints, I'll go and I'll figure out what stories are my favorites for certain themes, and I might ask for input also. But it's much easier because you don't have to edit them, so it's like much less work.
Okay, gotcha.
And also because it's also less work, not just in the actual literally editing the stories, but also just putting everything together. With an anthology of new stories, you don't know what you're going to get, and the anthology forms as you put it together. With a reprint anthology, the stories already exist, so you know the form is easier to figure out when you're putting the book together. Well, that's not easier, but because at the end you still have to figure out the order of them. But when you're buying them for reprint, it's there ready. You don't have to wait for the stories to come in.
So if reprints, it's like if you have a vision of how you kind of want to see how the final product turns out, it's a little easier because you have a lot. The content's already there, so you can kind of pick and choose what you're looking for a lot easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
For a theme, for best of the year, it's different.
Yeah.
I'm still reading things. I'm reading things for the first time, and choosing them.
Gotcha. No, that's interesting. Like I say, I'm getting educated here, so I thank you very much for your time on that. But I think for the time being, I think we have a pretty good interview. So you've already mentioned what's coming up for you next. So how can people find you social media wise?
I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, and I'm under my own name, so it should be pretty easy. Just Google me. I also have a Flickr account, so I post a lot of photographs. I just posted photographs. I co-host the KGB reading series in New York City in the East Village monthly, and I just posted the photographs from last night. And we also we have an audio. We'll have an audio. We have, I guess they're called. They're not officially podcasts, but we do audio of each reading, and that'll be going up probably the next week or so. I'm easy to find online.
Yeah. So with your audio, is it like a regular monthly deal, weekly deal, or what?
I'm sorry, what?
Your audio, is it like a monthly or weekly deal?
Well, it's reading. It's a reading series live. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's monthly.
Okay.
But we do audio of the readings, and we post those. So yes, it's monthly along with the reading series.
Okay. Very.
And I've got a web page.
EllenDatlow.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my conversation with Ellen Datlow. Check out Mad Hatters and March Hares, her more recent release. Personal favorite is The Coyote Road. I really enjoyed the Trickster Tales concept. I never looked at Bugs Bunny quite the same way after that, and but it's really good. Like I said, she's an amazing editor, and she's edited some of the better collections in the last 20 years, whether they were like, Snow White, Blood Red, or Mad Hatters and March Hares, or The Coyote Road, or a variety of other stuff she's done. Ellen is one of the premier editors of our time, and she should definitely be respected for that. Um, so I am doing this, literally getting ready for Mexico right now. I leave in 2 days. I'm putting this in one more episode out, but I'm going to say most of what I need to say here. The last episode just makes me kind of smile. I can't think of a better way. So what's happening now is the podcast after episode 145 is going to be on hiatus until February 1st. I'm going to be doing I don't know what to expect. Like I said, I'm going down for an examination. I got a decent amount of money, not enough for everything I want to do, but enough to get started, really get started. And really, that's what matters, is I keep going and keep moving and keep doing. And I feel good about that. So I'm kind of happy the place I'm at and where I'm going. So all that's really left to do now is kind of do it. I'm excited. I'm anticipating a lot of cool things happening. February 1st, by the way, this podcast will be going back to 2 a week. So the remaining interviews that aren't on there might be one more interview between now and then. I might do one more in January, but episode 146 or 147 from February on will be a regular schedule again. And yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to what's coming, and like I said, making big changes. So I want to thank everybody that did the GoFundMe here again. That was really cool. I want to thank everybody that's offered to help. I want to thank everybody that has quietly stepped up to me for the last time. Next you hear from me, I don't think I'm going to look or sound the same. And it's going to be an interesting change. And change, as they say, is good. The most important lesson I learned last year was that you don't have to carry your scars with you forever. And I hope if you're listening to this, you feel the same way. And that you find it within you to let go of the things that hold you back. And so that you can go forward into what you really want to do. Because you deserve that. Each and every one of you. Okay? Alright. I'm out. Stay inspired out there. I will see you on the other side.
Josh.